Okay, welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 149. This I'm discussing the last two episodes of Flashman, and I'm gonna get my final thoughts on Flashman. Oh, in the case of Overlord, I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow due to the fact that I don't have any time to do it right now. So, sorry, do it tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sorry myself too. Okay, and these two episodes. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the last video is that there was this thing that was basically made its first appearance in this one more properly. The anti-flash phenomenon, which started with actually episode 44. And it was implied at first it would do with their powers, where the powers are fading, but nope. That was not the case. As a matter of fact, it's not even brought up at all in here. It could be just because of the Flash, like, oh, this is something that Baki basically mentioned back in episode 18 before he freaking died. Like, oh, was it him losing the powers? Not necessarily. It was due to Earth rejecting them. First, when they touched his family old hands, there was a shock to them. And according to the doctor, the little finger thing, just make sure there's a little full hand thing, he described it similar to electric shock. And apparently also affects the plants too, which of course causes carbon dioxide. And at one point they get thirsty, and the water nearly kills them. They can't consume water. Later on, basically, their bodies are virtually dying toward the end of these episodes. They can't survive the oxygen or whatever. And this is due to the fact that they can't live outside the environment of the Flash system for more than a year. Like anything more than a year, that they start dying. So, in these two episodes, basically, we have it's where Emperor Delas, where he actually does revive himself, and he thinks the thing on Kefler. Yeah. And by the way, Kefler, Nephilim, and the Emperor are and of course, along with their jellyfish, they're the only things left of the Mass Empire. Everyone else is gone. Well, actually, also the Zoids, but they do make appearance in the final episode. So, he basically overthrows him and basically transforms into a utter warrior. And it works for a while, and then he transforms back, and then, of course, he gets destroyed by the Rolling Vulcan. Took 2 shots of the Rolling Vulcan just to destroy him. And he goes giant size, and then eventually he's destroyed. And then in the final episode of this, he gets basically merged with the jellyfish that they've been using since episode 2 to grow all their monsters to form the final monster of the series, which interesting to say the least. User remains of the main, well, you appear to be the main villain. Now, it is definite that basically you think, 48, that was when they killed him off. Nope, he gets brought back for next episode, and then he finally gets cut up with the Flashman at 49. So it is confirmed he got killed off at 49. In the last 2 episodes, it's mostly just Dr. Kefler and Nephilim. So they form this monster, and they're basically virtually dying. They're basically almost on life support at this point. So basically, it's the Flash King. They basically try to battle the damn creature, and ends up basically after firing multiple attacks on it, doesn't work. They try the Cosmic Sword, and it breaks. Yes, it breaks. The only reason why it breaks is because it's the final episode. Of course, it will freaking break. Now, of course, yes, this has happened occasionally, where a monster has caused the sword to be broken. As a matter of fact, it happened Go-Go 5 almost halfway through the series run, where the sword was broken. It's happened a few times. Heck, there's even in one series where the Red Rangers, I think it was in Sun Boku, when the Red Ranger 2 was completely destroyed in the episode. This one almost happened too. This one where the Red Flash's suit was nearly destroyed in this episode, which is interesting to say the least. Also, apparently, it seems as though in these episodes that, well, we have where, especially on Red Flash, we have these little spots that gets hit a lot. So, then eventually, after using the Flash Titan, it takes 2 attacks from the Titan Nova to finally destroy the final creature. So, they destroy the creature. By the way, it is revealed in these episodes that Sarah is the one who's the lost child of the Tagawa family. Yep, she's the daughter Oh, the Doctor has been popping up since episode 18. Yep, finally confirmed. It was confirmed in episode 49 that she was, in fact, their daughter. And she's the only one. I'll get to more in that minute. So, me. So, they pretty much in the way. Oh, by the way, Crawler himself, he pretty much in the way dies in the penultimate episode. Bogart is gone. All his hunters are all gone. He dies by suicide bomb himself against the Loeb spaceship that they have. So then with the Emperor gone, then comes one thing I have loved about the Showa era Sentai series. Something that's happened, like, of all the Sentai series I've watched, this has only happened once in the Heisei era. And that happened in Zoo Ranger. We have the Rangers break into the main villain's base, and they actually go into their strategy room. Yeah, they do. The place where they basically battle and stuff. They even have it where Sarah destroys the genetics sequencer. Also, it's revealed here that Dr. Kefler is, in fact, an Earthling. This, I kind of felt, was completely out of nowhere. Apparently, he didn't know about it. It was revealed by the Emperor in the previous episode. Apparently, he was abducted as a baby 300 years prior to this series. I'm like, really? Yeah, this felt very tacked on. The whole thing revealing that apparently the main scientist was, in fact, an Earthling. Okay. And then, of course, prior to the genetic sequencer being destroyed, we have it where Red Ranger's going to do the thing where I saw also in Live Man, where he takes his sword, he's about to stab the scientist, and then Nephilim steps on him, she takes a blow. I'm like, that's a bit of a change. I'm like, what is with the Red Ranger in like 3 Sentai I've watched where he loves stabbing the main villain in the frickin' belly? Well, in the case of not Sun Vulcan, it happened in Gogol 5, where he ends up basically like, oh, you're fear of taboo. Smash a frickin' glass. In Live Man, he stabs the main villain in the frickin' gut. Here, it appears as though we can do the same thing too, because I watched these series out of order. But no, Nephilim gets it and then she dies. And eventually, Doctor himself gets destroyed along with the spaceship they have. And then, basically, with the Mass Empire completely gone, there's no reason another. They're basically out of time. So, they're picked up by Meg. And by the way, the family is confirmed. They do know that Sarah's their daughter. So, eventually had to leave Earth. And then they do confirm they're going to come back. But in case you're curious, though, do the Flashman ever come back to Earth? Well, you really want an answer to that? By the way, the final episode is called Farewell Home Planet. Yeah. In the case of this episode itself, the Flashmen do not really return at all. And this is kind of weird. The team itself doesn't eventually return ever again. Ever in the history of... well, they do have Green Flash show up in an episode of Go Kaiger in, like, the penultimate episode of the damn thing. But some of them basically don't really appear much after this. Yeah. Like the Doctor himself. He appears in Tessa and Bokanger. Yeah, he appears in, like, one episode. And you're thinking, really? Oh, yeah, really. Yeah. But in the case of, oh, yeah, they're going to come back to Earth? Nope, they never do. And here's the thing. The very next series that comes after this one is Masked Man and Live Man. 2 series I've already reviewed. That's one thing in particular this one has in common both with Shurikenger and with Jetman, where the 2 Sentai that come afterwards, I've already reviewed. So, with this... Now we're going to talk about my final thoughts on Flashman. At first, I was kind of regretting getting into this one, purely because I thought this episode was okay. I mainly got into this one purely because of the aesthetic. I love the whole late 80s stuff when it comes to anything like 80s. So I love the 80s, so there's that. Did I get into it because my parents got married this year, that particular year? No, not particularly per se. That just by sheer happenstance. But I think the characters got really cool costumes. The Flashman suits are awesome. Now, the one thing I did notice though, because I did watch Masked Man before this, where I did notice that some of the monsters were basically using the same grunting noise as the Electric Beast monster that popped up in Masked Man. Yeah, same exact noise. Yes. Also, I kind of felt as though there was a bit too many villains appearing in this particular thing. Yeah, like at the start, you had the main villain, the Emperor. You have the Doctor who creates all the stuff. You have Wanda. You have Gerda, who really doesn't do anything at all, and Nephilim, and two minor henchmen. Well, two henchmen of theirs. You have roughly 7 people who appear in just the first episode, and later on, you have the alien hunters, which brings the freaking like 12, 13 villains against 5 Flashmen. And that I thought was quite something. Now, you probably were thinking, now, I did read apparently Changeman, which was one of April this one. That one was also an alien species. Now, here's the strange thing about the mass spaceship. Despite the fact it would move around, it very rarely ever did. Yes, it rarely ever left basically where it was ever at. And here's a strange fun fact. Despite the fact it's a spaceship, at no point do we ever see this thing ever go to frickin' space. Never. The whole time we see it's on screen, it never goes to space. The only time we ever see space in this entire series is in the opening episode of this show and the final episode. And it's mostly the Flashman going to space. Yeah. But in the case of what did I think of the Flash phenomenon? I think it was something they didn't really build up too well at all. It felt like, though, that, we're basically animals. We got to figure out something. What was Baki talking about? Let's have it where the Flash nearly die because of the Earth's environment. Also, I think Dr. Kefla revealed his Earthling felt like a bit out of nowhere. It felt like the writers basically just had to do something with him. Because this whole plot thread, his backstory, like really? Why the heck did we have to basically reveal he was a freaking Earthling? Yeah, I mean, he's a bad guy nonetheless. I mean, he basically looks human. I mean, it was also really practically created the entire army. So, why in the world do they basically have it where, he actually was abducted as maybe 300 years later than the series? It felt very tacked on. What do I think of the character Wanda? Well, aside from the fact he's got a girl's name, he's a pretty cool villain. I like his monster form. Plus, I also like the fact he also clone Monster in his final appearance. Netflix got the same thing too. The one thing I also got to point out, though, apparently when Nephilim was basically defending him in episode 46, we also have it where you have Doctor basically grabbing her shoulder, and you can obviously see that the thing she's wearing is basically like rubber. Obviously, her shoulder pad is obviously rubber. Now, appearance-wise, it looks like armor. In the show, it looks like he's squishing it. Also, he refers to her as father, which Wanda never did. Nope, he never did. And Dr. Kefla was like, really? You call me father? She says, you created me, so of course my father. Okay, that kind of does make sense. After all, he is technically the person who created her, so of course you call him father. It's fine. It doesn't really affect much anything at all. And here's the weird thing. She doesn't get punished for any of her failures. Not on screen anyways. Mostly it's the Emperor basically punishing them. Yep. And apparently Wanda is always like volunteering for anything. He's basically very loyal to Mass. He'd volunteer for anything despite the fact he would fail anyways. Like, he volunteered to have his body modified. Also, apparently, at one point, the weird thing about his sword, it seems as though they had it pretty powerful. And in his final appearance, the loss of all his power was sort of destroyed. No, it just... As soon as basically he was killed, the sword disappeared. Yeah, the killer sword that he basically first got in episode 15. Yes. That I think was kind of like a bit shoe in the fact that we have Bogart show up in the the last episode. I didn't really have a big issue with it per se. I think he's really cool. I love his look. Basically, Crawler having a right hand man in his organization, Alien Hunters, that kind of makes sense. Him being as powerful is really cool. I love the fact he basically he turns his two like things like a freaking spear. Basically, the best way I can describe him and Crawler's relationship, it kind of reminds me of Batman and Nightwing per se, where Bogart is kind of like, I mean, it reminds me a lot of Dick Grayson, basically just by sheer appearance, and his mannerisms, basically just like, oh, he was awesome, wander from space. Oh, by the way, the whole thing, Alien Hunters kidnapping babies, that happened like 3 or 4 times. But this whole thing, kidnapping babies. Excuse me. Here's a thing that they never revealed here's something they never really fully explored. Why the heck the Alien Hunters were kidnapping babies in the first place? Did they want to create the Flashman? Never revealed. Also, where the heck these hunters even come from? The only kind of hunter they kind of developed was Kalos, where they reveal what his species are, but the rest of the alien hunters, not really know. Why do they do what they do? Carefully, they reveal the reason why he did stuff what he does, where he basically just wanted to turn evil. And the only reason why he turned against Mass because they harmed his precious alien hunters. I'm like, interesting. Yeah. But not much to say about Flashman. It's an interesting show per se, but as time went on after I watched the first 2 episodes, I really started to enjoy it. Yep. And now I officially finished up my 22nd Super Sentai. Now I did review I'm going to start Go Ranger soon. That will happen after I do Space Sheriff Gavin, which will be the next Tokusatsu series I'm going to start up soon. And I'm going to start that one, and we'll also do something else alongside of it. It could be my main one, but I'll do Go Ranger on the side, and that will be Die Man. Yes, that was the one that aired between Go 5 and Bioman. Yes, that one. The reason why that one, because I have been kind of hesitant to get this one because I was not really a big fan of some of the stuff that Go 5 was doing, especially look how cheap it freaking looked. And one thing that's going to be interesting in that one is the fact that the team is basically, the whole Super Sentai team is basically the uniform based on a baseball team, which should be interesting nonetheless. Yep. So yeah, that's a particular review. Basically, the first one I do my Go Ranger review, the review for Go Ranger, my first one will be my 150 episode of the series. Okay. So yeah, that's a particular review. Next one's going to be, I think I'll just do 1 comic corner to start, maybe 2, if I get lucky. Okay. Next video. Bye.